The IBM Jam live session continues. This is our second of 3 sessions today, so make sure to stick around for our 10 p.m. Central Time session coming up. This is going to be great fun. You know him well, and if you don't, you're in for a treat. He's been featured on America's Got Talent, Last Comic Standing, Conan, and as one of the stars of The Illusionists, the biggest selling magic show in the world. And he's the most requested headliner at Monday Night Magic, the longest running magic show in New York. He's a proud camper and current counselor at Tannen's Magic Camp, and he's host of the new IBM podcast, Who Books That? Please give a warm IBM welcome to Mr. Harrison Greenbaum.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, welcome to it.
Thank you so much, by the way. I know since you can no longer stop me from saying this because now I have control of the feed, but thank you so much for everything you do, Alex. I know on behalf of the membership, not that I can speak for everybody, but what you've done in terms of bringing these live streams to everybody has been amazing. And Ryan also has been the production and backbone behind all this as well. He deserves a lot of thanks. So thank you guys to both of you. And Simon, applauding for both of you guys. What you've done is amazing. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Harrison Greenbaum. As Alex mentioned, I have been on America's Got Talent and Last Comic Standing. I am very good at getting eliminated from reality television shows. And I am here tonight to present to you my lecture. It's a special coronavirus edition of this lecture. So let's shoot it up on the screen so you can see the first slide. There you go. It's called You Are All Terrible, and Now Some of You Have the Coronavirus by Harrison Greenbaum. We always have to start off with a jam. So this is a little jam. Let's see if we can do it. Oh, there we go. It's all right. That's actually every magic lecture starts off with a magic quote. I think that's very, very important. And this is a quote from Harry Keller. There is no reality, just this world of illusion that keeps on haunting me. Obviously, knowing magic history is very important. And of course, knowing that that's not Harry Keller. That's Harry Keller. Of course, that's not Harry Keller. That's Harry Keller and his dog. And that quote is not a Harry Keller quote. It's a Chris Angel quote. It is from his theme song. Dance party. All right. I've been giving this lecture since 2016. I've been touring all over the world with it, obviously making a lot of changes every single time. This is, I think, the 20th version of it. And I've been keeping track of my lecture audience, which is very important. This was the lecture audience in 2016. You can see the ratio there. 2017, pretty similar. 2018, pretty similar. 2019, exactly the same. And 2020, huge growth. Huge growth. That's 2019. That's 2020. Big numbers. We're now at Republican Party numbers. So that's pretty incredible. A big shout out, by the way, to Rod Chow, who also agrees that Alex is doing an amazing job. I agree. And Ken Dum, who was referencing the Abbott's Magic 3 a.m. show that I did in the Conklin's backyard. That is true. We were partying at Abbott's Magical Get-Together, and we ended up doing a 3 a.m. stand-up comedy show. I did a live stand-up set in the backyard, and it was one of the highlights for me. It was so fun, and I think a lot of people got a lot out of that. So it was very fun. So those are, speaking, by the way, of women and minorities, a PSA, while I have everybody here watching, very important. There would be more women in magic if you weren't all so creepy. I think that just goes without saying. Stop introducing them as female magicians. I think that's important, right? Because you don't say, hey, I have a great woman doctor. You just say you have a great doctor. Let's just introduce them as magicians. Weird for me to be mansplaining something mansplaining, but somebody's got to do it. All right, so let's get into the meat of this. It is a weird time to be performing magic and to be alive in general. Hi, Bruce Gold. How you doing? Renee said, are you related to Harold Greenbaum? I don't know any Harold Greenbaums, but you never know. My grandfather from the other side of the family, the non-Greenbaum, was named Harold, and I'm named after a Harold. So technically, I'm almost a Harold Greenbaum. But this is a big trick now. That's the coronavirus. That took 30 minutes of animation. Hope it was worth it. So here are the advantages to being a magician during the coronavirus pandemic. These are the advantages to being a magician during the coronavirus pandemic. Here we go. And this is, by the way, a tweet that I made about it because the new David Blaine special comes out on April Fool's on Wednesday. That is not a prank. And he's been, buried underground. He's held his breath for 17 minutes. But on this special, his most dangerous yet, he will be shaking strangers' hands. So I don't know if you guys know that. But looking forward to it. I don't know how he's going to survive this one. Very, very exciting stuff. But here are the advantages to being a magician during the coronavirus pandemic. By the way, Gabriel Lim is saying, LMAO. It is very weird to do a comedy lecture without laughter. So if you could clap or laugh or put your LOLs or as Renee did, ha 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 with J's, which is Spanish for ha ha ha, Simone's laughter faces, that helps me a lot and makes me feel less suicidal. So here we go, everybody. The advantages to being a magician during the coronavirus pandemic. Used to being alone. Need people to keep their distance. Tell them you want to perform a card trick. The popularity of Tiger King on Netflix means you can use all the sparkles, glitter, and eyeshadow you want and still look normal in comparison. Nobody making horrible "can you make my wife disappear" jokes anymore because it's just too soon. If everyone gains weight during the quarantine, magicians don't seem so fat anymore. Nobody's getting a haircut, so who's making fun of your huge fedora collection now, huh? If things get desperate, playing cards are just very tiny, very stiff pieces of toilet paper. Shows with only half the seats filled are now, quote, social distance sellouts. Chris Angel's theater is shut down and the show's never been better. By the way, I finally met Chris Angel at a convention and he's very, very nice. But the jokes are in the slides. I can't change them. So my apologies. He is very nice, but the jokes are stuck. The train is on the tracks. So Debbie Leifer laughing, thank God. Dane Dover laughing. Alexander, ha ha ha, which is a very good laugh. So let's get into the meat of the lecture. What you won't see in this lecture is any more dumb magic quotes. You're welcome. You won't see any more pie charts. Also, you're welcome. Any tricks at all. You have enough. No, seriously, your wife told me to tell you. Yeah. A lot of lectures, they will sell you some doodads. You will throw them in a drawer and you will never use them again. That's not what this is for. You have enough tricks. Buying more tricks just means you will have more tricks to be bad at. This lecture is about taking the tricks you already have and love and getting them to a point that they are art. They can appreciate it as the art that they are. So that's what this whole lecture is about. The lecture, finally, what you will see in this lecture, you will be more original. That's the art part. This is a two-part lecture. We're going to talk about art at the very beginning. Then we're going to get into comedy. The art part is focusing on being original, unique, right? So magic is art. You'll see a solution for thinning hair. How do you currently create your magic? How should you create magic? A joke involving debris? Perhaps, maybe not. We don't know. Comedy, be funnier. How can you make your jokes funny or funnier? A boy gets injured in a hilarious fashion. How can rules that make comedy better make your magic better, funny or not? A joke involving Anne Frank, that is coming. And the secret algorithm of comedy. So those are all the things you can look forward to. Plus, the greatest magic review ever published. It has literally nothing to do with this lecture, but I am sharing this with you anyway because it's fun and we need to laugh. John Sterlini, one of my good buddies out in Michigan, said one of the best lectures I've ever seen. Well, that's very, very nice. We brought him in from Michigan Magic Day, 2018. I appreciate that very, very much. And I had a blast out there. I love it being in Colon, Michigan. Although nobody's surprised based on my voice that I enjoy things involving the colon. That's as dirty as we'll get. Don't worry. So those are what you will be seeing in this lecture. One thing to say is if you want to follow me on social media, it's at Harrison Comedy. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. And most importantly, we want you to like this page, like this video. If you want to share this with friends, that is awesome. And if you want to comment on the side, it's on that side for me. But I can see your comments. I can respond to them. Even if you just want to do an LOL or you have a question, please keep those comments coming because this is an interactive thing. I'm not here to just talk at you. I'm here to have a conversation with you so we can all be a little bit less terrible. All right, so let's get into it. We're all going to try to be less terrible. Art. Be more original. So how do you create art? And because I think that's what we all strive for in magic is to be creating art, right? We push to make magic an art form. So most magic, in my opinion, is not art. And why is that? Because too many magicians are performing tricks they did not invent, with scripts they did not write, based on performances they saw someone else do, and they still call that art, right? That's not really art. That is being a cover band, right? And that's fine if you want to be a cover band, but too many magicians are Beatles cover bands acting like they're John Lennon, right? So just imagine if you created your own stuff. That That would be pretty exciting. And I'm going to try to give you the tools to do that, by the way. So stick in there. John Shango saying, Zerlini's not lying. Fantastic lecture. Well, thank you so much. My dad is saying, hello, Sonny Boy. He misspelled it, and it's Sony Boy. But I promise you that I am not part of it, partially created by a Japanese electronics company. That is my dad. That is not a picture of my dad. My dad is not a small child who plays the harmonica. He's a large man who plays the harmonica. Amy Nichols saying, love your lectures. Oh, I thank you very much. Rod, show us some magic, please. There will be some magic, hopefully, in terms of making your magic better. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Hope you're doing well out in Iowa. All right, let's keep going. How do most artists create? So let's step backwards for a moment and think about how artists that are not magicians, people that we know are artists, painters, people, Picasso, that kind of person. How does he create art, and what does that process look like? So let's look at this. There's an art guy. He's making little happy clouds. So you come up with an idea. You figure out the techniques you need to express that idea. You express that idea, filter through the artist's voice, and that's the art right there. Boom. I thought there was another step. It's just 3. That's even easier. Come up with the idea, learn the technique, create art. That's the process of artistic creation. My theory that I will like to try to demonstrate and prove, the thesis, is that magicians are doing it completely backwards. So let's look. Sean saying, I love this. Well, I'm glad. That's awesome. I appreciate it. Sid saying, love your comedy. You are amazing. I've never laughed so hard in my life. I aim for people to poop themselves. That's what I go. I start with tears, work up to pee, end with poop, and then I don't know where you go from there other than death. So I don't want to kill my audience. That literally kill them. But I want to get close, real close. All right. The Corona of comedy. That's going to be my new tag. Anyway, this is a good example that you're seeing right there to the right. That is a painting by Bob Ross. His idea is clouds, and his technique is marijuana, obviously, Bob Ross. So how do magicians create? As I said, I think they do it backwards. Discover a cool trick or technique. Figure out a way to present it that may or may not be unique. I have the trick. Here, I'm going to do it. Most of my pattern will be me just telling you what I'm doing as I do it. I hope that it expresses some kind of authentic idea, but if it doesn't do that, at least it's a cool trick, right? So you notice how that is backwards, right? Instead of starting with an idea, then figuring out the technique to express that idea, and then filtering that through the voice, we're actually starting with the trick and the technique first, and then shoehorning it into our act. That's completely backwards. Cody Fisher just pooped himself. Mission accomplished, everybody. Jeff Brace says he's excited for this lecture. It has already started. You are late, but thank you anyway. I appreciate that very much. And Renee is laughing in Spanish. Ha ha ha. All right. So that is the difference between a magician and an artist approach. Let's talk about the artist approach more specifically. I want to paint a nude woman. Classic artistic subject, has been done since almost caveman times. You're seeing a stick figure, you're like, probably a naked lady. So I want to paint a nude woman. Gabriel Lim saying, literally dead. Hope not literally. Or actually, no, actually literally, which means not actually dead, but only literally. Anywho, I want to paint a nude woman. I figure out the best technique to paint skin tones, the methods for capturing the human form, right? I'm going to figure out, do I want to do it literally? Do I want to do it based on a person I've met? Is it an imagination thing? Is it based on a photograph? Is it based on a person? All these different things are me trying to determine the best way to paint a nude woman, the idea that I want to express, and filter that through my own artist voice. So there you go. There's a Picasso painting that is called, I'm translating this from the Spanish, but I believe it's called 4 out of 10 at best. All right, Al Delfonso said, real LOL comedy plus no tricks. Where have you been all my magic life? Right here, buddy. I'm right here, Al. I'm all for you. Oscar says, I am bilingual, ha-ya. That's pretty good, I like that. And in the building are the Brits, Keith Fields and Lady Sarah, who I love dearly. Can I start over again? No, rewind it. Don't rewind it. I need you live. Come follow along. You'll be able to get there. Cody saying, I'm a male magician. What is this nude woman you speak of? Touche, sir. Touche. How does a magician approach this? Goes to the magic store, sees that the latest release is a video on painting nude women, invents some story about how his grandfather once showed him a nude woman, and uses the techniques to illustrate it. Banned from performing at a child's birthday party ever again. Don't touch kids. Just don't do it, guys. I know this is a weird digression, but while I'm speaking to the International Brotherhood of Magicians, an organization that I love and is dear to my heart, it has so many members that I love and respect. Don't touch kids. I don't know if this is going to be the biggest audience I ever get to perform for via live stream, but if it is, don't touch them. Stop it. Every time a magician gets arrested, my first question is how many kids and where. There was a time, this is a true story. I'm a headliner at Monday Night Magic, and somebody who was working at Monday Night Magic was arrested. And my first question was, how many kids? And they said, no, he was a bank robber. So I never before have I been so relieved to find out information like that. Stephen Bergazzi saying, I hate kids. Oh, well, your son is a very talented comedian, so hopefully you like that guy. That guy is great. I love both of them. I love both Stephen and Nate. They're phenomenal. We have Carol Hendricks saying, OMG. I appreciate it. So anyway, we're back to why magic is an art and how we can make it art. The iPhone theory of magic is that most people have the same iPhone. They all buy the same trick. Oh, Susan, by the way, saying don't touch anyone. That is true. Without consent, don't touch anyone. Definitely don't touch kids. All right. If all you do is take the existing presentation and customize it to you. So the original instructions say, when I was visiting China for vacation, and you change it to when I was getting the coronavirus in Japan for business. That's not really changing it enough. The whole thing about making art is about doing something unique to you, expressing your own point of view. Paul Kozak is here. How you doing, everybody? That's awesome. Aaron Hayes says, I think that has to be the main thing we take from this. Don't touch kids. Will be worth the IBM membership fee. Thank you. It's an important message. If you take anything away from that, there you go. So what I'm trying to say is that discourage, in a way, is the magic store mentality of buying a trick and then just slightly changing it in order to make it me. But I haven't contributed really the scripting or the trick itself. Stephen saying, my favorite magic lecture and the only one I've ever seen 3 times. Yes, how you doing out in Las Vegas? He did have to see it 3 times in a row when I did it at Magic Live. Here we go. Next thing up, how to create magic that is art. All right, so that's what I promised you guys. I told you how to create magic that is art. This is how you do it. You figure out what you want to say. You figure out a way to say that magically, right? So you come up with a dream scenario. I'm going to float over the audience naked and then throw sausages out of thin air into the audience. I have no idea, but that's for you to go into therapy and really look inside yourself and realize ask yourself, why do you want to do the naked sausage trick? And if there are children in the audience, stop it. Don't touch kids. Okay. Figure out what you want to say and figure out a way to say that magically, create, and then filter that through your unique voice. And that is also really, really important because we're about to talk about character and persona. The unique voice is very important. All the people that you love and respect and you would like to emulate, all of those people have a unique voice, and that's why you love them so much. Matt King, who, shameless plug, interviewed for Who Books That. You can watch that episode. We did it last Wednesday. You can watch that episode here on the IBM page. The reason Mac, you can hear Mac's voice. You can picture what a Mac trick looks like. You know the outfit. He has a unique voice, and that is really, really, really important. Oh, there's a plug on the bottom. Perfect. All right, so art, by the way, if you're worried about what is the definition of art, because that is hard to define, I would say it is the artist's expression, that's your unique point of view, of a universal idea, that's the idea part, figuring out what you want to say, within the narrow constraints. That's within your art form, right? If you're a magician, there are certain restraints to how you can express the ideas that you have. Cody Fisher saying, I think Jerry Sadowich did the naked sausage trick back in the 90s. That is, I would not be surprised in the least. Winton saying, my sons and I just love watching you. Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliments. And Carol says, that was Wednesday. It does feel like 10 years ago. So that is how you create magic that is art. And just to give you an example, I, in my act, have a Price is Right trick. I have a board, and here's another shameless plug. I did it on Scam, which is my weekly magic show, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, EDT. But it looks like this. There's a picture of me back in the day when I could perform for audiences. Do you remember that? That was like a fun. There'd be people and they would laugh, and you weren't just talking to your webcam and forcing your girlfriend to stay in her bedroom while you talking to your laptop. But this trick came to me because most of my tricks, my creative process is that I write jokes, do them in the comedy clubs as a straight stand-up, or as straight as I can be, but as a straight stand-up. And the jokes that really push out, the ones that really sort of, I would call my blockbuster jokes, or these jokes that just really hit hard, they're very consistent. I try to see if those jokes have the ability to become a magic trick. Michael Reamer saying, that's a great routine. Love you at Sam Vegas. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I enjoy doing it quite a bit. And one of the reasons I do enjoy doing it is because it does involve crowd work and I can incorporate the audience so much into this specific trick. But the joke is, and I will tell you the joke, and you better laugh in the comments, otherwise it's going to feel real weird just performing for silence. But the joke is, I would love to be on The Price is Right, but I can never be on The Price is Right because I'm Jewish. I'd be too frustrated, right? Like if I was on the show, the host would be like, "How much is that chair?" I'm like, "I don't know, $40." Like actual retail value, $80. I'd be like, "Screw you, I have a coupon." That's the joke. I'm going to pause for the laughter that I know is coming. And that joke is actually based on my family. My sister loves The Price is Right. And my parents promised that on her 18th birthday, we would fly out to Los Angeles and get to be on The Price is Right. We would send for tickets. That was all predicated on Bob Barker being the host. And because this was made long before my sister was 18, I think they assumed he would be dead. He was not. He was not even retired. So we did all fly out. It was a really big moment for my family. I also got to go to the Magic Castle for the first time. I was only 18. I wore a big button that said under 21. And it was incredible. Paul Kell was saying, "Plugging yourself so much, it's almost like a sausage trick." Touche, sir. Touche. And after hearing that joke, I have one question. How many kids? Oh, Lord. And Gabriel is saying, I believe that is a different language for laughing. I'm going to assume that is how you say laughter in a language I do not speak. But essentially, we were talking about The Price is Right, how much my family loves it. There is a deep personal connection. That's part of the unique thing about your persona. It should actually connect to who you are on the inside. We were joking about my Jewish grandmother who's who lived to 100, wonderful lady. But we were like, what would happen if she came with us and was on the show? And that's where I said the line about she would probably have a coupon. That unlocked the entire sequence of the joke for me. It was a very fun joke to do on stage. And I realized I could play The Price is Right with everybody. So we come up with the idea, have The Price is Right in my stand-up, wanted to play the game with the audience. And now that I'm in the zone of, I want to play The Price is Right with the audience, I can then begin to think like a magician. I didn't just buy a mental epic board and go, "Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do with this. Price is Right." I came up with the Price is Right idea first, sat down, really thought, and tried to imagine a dream version of what that show would look like, and then came up with the mental epic. That's how you get to the mental epic. So you figure out the techniques. It's a mentalist trick, prediction effect, mental epic. You buy every board. You figure out what is the best technique, not necessarily the best magical technique per se, but what lets you express the idea the best. Are there cleaner methods? Are there more technologically cool methods? Perhaps. That doesn't matter. The thing that's driving the entire train is the actual idea itself, not the trick. The trick doesn't drive the idea drives the trick. That's what is really important. That's how magic becomes art. You express that idea. You spend 10 years doing it thousands of times to make it a staple of the act, and you earn the trick. I don't think you could ever perform something perfectly every time. That you don't practice so that you're always perfect, because that is not a thing. What you do is you perform so many times that the trick has screwed up so many times that when something does go wrong, because something will go wrong, you know how to get out of it and make it look like something didn't go wrong. That's what I mean by earning a trick. We have Oscar saying, "Were you under 21? It's okay, that's not a kid." That's fair. I was 18 when I was at the Magic Castle. Jim Cox saying 33333, which is how robots laugh. That's true. I think he was watching Bill's IBM Jam. And Patrick had an LOL, which I will acknowledge. I love Sir Patrick. We actually, speaking of the Magic Castle, we performed at the Magic Castle together. Adam Parisi saying most people are asleep right now, just like when you do this lecture at the conventions. I love you, Harrison, in this lecture. Well, thank you so much. That's a funny joke, and I'm going to take credit for how funny that is because you've seen this lecture. All right. By the way, I promised you a solution for thinning hair. It looks like this. Right? I had all the hair. There we go. Solution. There it is. That's okay. If ideas come before techniques, why come to the lectures and learn all these techniques, right? Why? Oh, and quarantine is a great time to practice the naked sausage trick. Actually, quarantine is a great time to do all the things that I'm talking about. The idea of dreaming up a show, literally creating a play of what the show will look like before you even worry about technique, is a very good quarantine exercise. And then sitting down and going, okay, so I want to open the show by appearing, just appear. It's an empty stage, and then I just appear. If that's really what you want to do, then now that you have the idea, you can use this time in quarantine, self-isolating, to go through your books, call your friends, and figure out how can you make that happen. But people wonder when I do this lecture, if the ideas come before the techniques, why are we even learning the techniques? Why don't you just come up with the ideas and then learn what you need to learn to make it come true? Well, the reason you're doing it is shut up, Jew. Well, that's not very nice. Slides. How do you know I was a Jew? Well, it's an event with magicians, so the odds are very high. You're building up. Isn't this fun that I can argue with my own slides? That's how lonely it is in quarantine. I'm arguing with the PowerPoint that I wrote myself. You're building up the knowledge and skill of your craft so that when you come up with your dream effects, you have the ability to make them a reality. That's what we're trying to do. So when you come up with this idea, I'm gonna fly over the audience, throw the sausages into the audience, you have an idea of how levitation works. You have an idea of how productions work. You have friends who can help you with both of those things and talk you out of the flying sausage trick. But that's why you're learning the techniques. It's because of what helps you eventually when you're digging down into your knowledge and resources to figure out how to make those ideas that you dreamed up a reality. Cool. Renee is laughing and drunk, which I appreciate. I assume that's what those cocktails are. And Paula Pert is saying practice makes permanent, right? That's the saying, perfect practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. So whatever you practice becomes what you do, but whether what you're practicing is what you want to be doing every time is the question. So Rod saying that's a fantastic strategy. I appreciate that. And Rod says completely makes great sense. So there we go. All right. That is the art component. And just very briefly before we get into the comedy, the part that I'm very excited about. I'm excited about this too, but I know you guys want to hear some of the comedy stuff. What does it mean to have a unique voice? What does it mean to have a persona? Let's plug, by the way, Who Books That? Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. I just wrote this theme song right now. Shameless plug. Every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm interviewing magicians who have unique voices. The reason these guys are such legends, like Matt King and Lance Burton, who's our special guest, is because they have a unique voice. What is your stage persona or character? It's a magnified version of you or a completely different invention. That's kind of the choice. Is it going to be you on steroids, the superhero version of you, or is it a complete crazy bonkers character that doesn't exist outside of the theater? So like Sylvester the Jester is a good example because he is not a living cartoon character. He is an Italian man. So those are different. Most people are magnified versions. I'm a magnified version. I would say 80% or more of magicians and probably most performers go the magnified version route. So I can speak more to that. And that's what I'm about to do. If you're Clark Kent, who's your Superman for the comic book fans? Your persona is the intersection of the perception of who you are, who do you think you are, and the audience's perception of who you are. That's the hard part, is the part on the right. Because it's one thing to say, oh, I think I'm very smart and sophisticated. And it's another thing to know that the audience who sees you based on what you wear, how you act, etc., doesn't feel that way. And whether your character exists as a conflict between the two, which is a comedic way of doing it, or whether it's about acknowledging who you are and incorporating that and changing a little bit of that perception of who you are, that's where your character exists, is at the intersection. Chris saying, Michael Amar told me it could be a caricature, I went to a very good school and I can't say caricature. A cartoon of yourself, huh? That really was helpful. I think that is a very good way to look at it. Richard saying the 7 Ps, prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. We're talking about the practice earlier. But yes, those are all very good Ps. As is peanuts. I love peanuts. They're great. I would insert that. I think while you practice, eat the peanuts. 8th P, that's the secret expert tip, just for you guys, the real work. All right. Magician who does magic tricks, not a character. That's too often the persona is that you just walk out, you do the tricks, and we don't know anything about you. Let's be honest. Think about your act for a second. What do we really know about you at the end of your show? If all I know is that you do magic and that you're a nice guy or a nice lady, that's not enough. Think about your favorite comedians. Your favorite comedians, you probably know way too much information about, and they're strangers to you. Think about your last special, the last comedy special you watched, and how under their skin you are. Mike Birbiglia said that you should feel like you're ripping off a scab. That's what performance is, ripping off a scab. Doing the material, this is what Mike Birbiglia told me. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Dane. I appreciate that. He said you should do the material that you'd be embarrassed for your parents to hear, which is ironic because my dad is definitely watching this, which means my mom is probably too. But that is really the truth of it. Be so personal, you might reveal details that your parents don't even know. That's how much we should know about you as a person or a persona. Test of a strong character. Can someone do an impression of you? That's a really good test. So, for example, if you're in a new impression of Matt King, you would do a Southern accent and perform it in the afternoon. Oscar saying, I am Mexican. I don't know if that is enough of a character, but that is definitely a part of the character. Depending on your political party, that might define your character. But I think that is definitely part of the smoothie that gets blended together to create your character. That's a fantastic thing. Oscar thinking and wide-eyed. But yeah, I think Oscar viewed as really. See, we're revealing things. We're under revealing things through this lecture. If you want to be Lance Burden, how would you do an impression of? You'd be a debonair gentleman on stage and then go home and use a Flowbee. That's a real fact that we found out on Who Books That? A shameless plug for a thing that's happening tomorrow and on Wednesday and every Monday and Wednesday after that. Okay, too many plugs. I promise, no more plugs. If you want to be David Blaine, you can invite your neighbors over and hold your breath in the tub for as long as possible. Fill it with ice. Chris Angel, you can wait a couple years and do whatever you did for David Blaine. Oh my God, he's very nice. I told you he was very nice. I told you I met him. He was very nice. Why am I doing this to him? All right. Lance Burden is in the building. Hello, Lance. That is awesome. He was a fantastic special guest. What does it mean to have a unique voice? Well, art is about expressing your point of view, your POV, which means your opinion, which means people will disagree with you. Let that settle for a second. When I was a kid, I had Mike Bent, who's an incredible comedy professor, incredible magician, incredible mentor. And he told me that his goal is to have 95% of the people love him and 5% of the people hate him, as opposed to just 100% of people just liking him, right? If 100% of people like your art, then you probably don't have a strong enough opinion, because strong opinions people will disagree with. It'd be very weird. How strong could your opinion really be if nobody disagrees with you? Then it's barely an opinion, it's almost a fact. So don't be vanilla pudding where people aren't against it, but nobody loves it, right? There's a reason they serve it at hospitals. I guess until recently when they're all on fire. But sushi, sure, a few people really hate it, but the people that like it, love it. The people who love sushi, it makes their day to have sushi. It really does. It makes my day. I love sushi. There are people who hate it, who don't even, they find the entire idea horrifying. I don't know if that's any of you. Feel free to comment. Well, no judgment, although sushi is amazing. But let's be sushi, guys. That's don't be vanilla pudding, be sushi. Make strong choices, express strong opinions. Gabriel Lim saying, if you aren't doing a monstrous manipulation act with sad faces and music from a Hayao Miyazaki movie, are you really an Asian magician? Fair enough. And Cody Fisher then responded by saying, I've always wanted to be an Asian magician, and I think all of us a little bit do. All right. This is the jam, by the way, just about magic. I see the little banner on the top. Make sure you like this page and like this video. All right. Why create art? Why are we doing this? It seems like a really hard thing to not just buy the trick, but to actually sit there, dream up this effect, and then come up with the method and start. It takes me sometimes years. There are some tricks that it really took at year 10 of doing it that I felt like I've gotten to the place where I feel very satisfied with it. And then I'm still fooling around with it. I'm still futzing. It's really, really hard to create original art. It's very easy to steal art. People do that. The reason they do it, why there are magic magicians and magic companies that steal, the reason they do it is because it's easy, not because it's good, not because it helps or is in any way artistic. They do it because it's easy, but we should be doing the thing that is right. And in this case, the thing that is right is hard. And as Ken Weber said in his book, Maximum Entertainment 1, there's now a 2.0. It's called Return of the Jew. And I believe he's prepping a third reboot of this book called How Can You Have More Entertainment Than the Maximum? That's literally the most possible already. But he said, the successful performers of my acquaintance consciously and conscientiously take the hard way, for that will be what separates them from the herd. So yes, is it really, really hard to create original material? Absolutely. But it makes the stuff that you want, being booked, being liked, being known, being respected. That's what makes it makes those things easy. The only way to get the things that you want is to do the hard thing. So we have Renee saying, I love sushi. That's great. And people are definitely talking about sushi. Dane loves sushi. So that's good. Not only are you learning, but I have made you all very hungry. So that is the artistic portion of the lecture. If you have any questions about the art thing, feel free to send them on the side. I will also answer questions at the end of this lecture, so definitely stick around for the Q&A. But now we enter the comedy section of this presentation, and this is what I think are the ways to make your act funnier if you are a comedy magician, or if you're not a comedy magician. I think a lot of these rules can still apply to your act and make them stronger. So don't tune out if you're not a comedy magician. I think all these things are very helpful, but if you are a comedy magician, these are things that you can apply directly to your jokes right now while in quarantine to make you a funnier performer. So here we go. This is the funniest video of all time. Has nothing to do with the lecture. We gotta do that again because that is honestly the greatest video of all time. Now watch the lady. There's a girl who jumped out of the way. She's very fun. Okay, now my neighbors are concerned for me. The joke structure, how do you write a joke? Well, it's interesting to me that you'll meet even comedy magicians, but magicians in general, who can tell you every page and citation of their card tricks, but don't know the basic structure of a joke. So let's go over that so that we have a set of terms that we can all, oh, there we go. Do you have advice for people who are unintentionally comedy magicians? I don't think you ever want to be in a situation where you're unintentionally funny. There's no way to control being unintentionally funny. There are people who are definitely unintentionally funny, but that is not bookable because if you don't know why you're funny or how you're funny, you can't control it, and then you can't be funny when you need to be, which is every time you're on stage. So I think it's really important to be intentionally funny, whether the appearance to the audience is that it is unintentional. That's another thing. You can definitely look like things are going wrong, but you don't want to ever rely on the fact that you just you happen to be funny. These are all tips that will make you funny, things that will help you prepare the jokes in advance. Comedy is subjective. This won't make you, it doesn't mean that every single time you perform, you will always be the funniest possible. Comedy is hard for a reason, but this is all about intentionality and figuring out how to make jokes funny and then make those funny jokes funnier. What do you do when your jokes bomb? We're gonna get to that towards the end, but my jokes never bomb. I'm just a fantastic comedian and I've never failed. So that's not true. We bomb all the time. Seinfeld once said that if a comedian is not bombing, then he's not doing enough new stuff. Right? I believe the quote is, if a comedian is killing 10 out of 10 times, then he's probably not a great comedian, because real comedians bomb at least 1 out of 10 times trying new stuff. So that's I think, a very good quote to keep in mind. All right. What is a joke? Well, it's tension and release. If you want to look at the simplest form of I'm reading comments and lecturing at the same time. This is like being in the Matrix. I imagine this was like a 911 operator. Wow, we just got real dark, real serious, real fast. Anywho, back to comedy. Tension and release. That's all a joke is. Building up tension, inflating the balloon, boom, then we pop it. The punchline is the pop, and that release of emotion, that explosion that happens in your brain. I think laughter is your brain firing this explosion, and the laugh is the involuntary response to that brain explosion. So we set up all the pieces. We're essentially setting up the dynamite, lighting the fuse, and then boom, the punchline explodes it. That's the release. A little bit more specifically, there's a setup or a premise. That's what we would call the thing that creates the tension. The punchline is the release of that tension, and the tags are additional jokes that get extra laughs out of those jokes. And we're talking about our laughs per minute. There you go, the LPM. So if I take your act and I time it and then I divide it, that's the numerator. And the denominator is how many laughs you get. Actually, the laughs per minute, which should be the laughs is the numerator, and your total time is the denominator. What are your laughs per minute? If you're getting, if in a minute you get 3 laughs, your laugh per minute, you have 3 laughs per minute. You're getting 3 laughs in that minute. So a laugh every 20 seconds would be 3 laughs per minute. That's probably the stand-up comedian rate is 10 to 20, every 10 to 20 seconds is a laugh. Comedy magicians that I've clocked, I mean, no, I'm not sitting there with a stopwatch watching comedy magicians, but based on my experience, it seems to be that the typical laughs per minute of a comedy magician sometimes is 2 to 3 minutes. 1 laugh every 2 or 3 minutes. Stand-up comedians are doing a laugh every 10 to 20 seconds. You can be joke dense. You can have so many jokes that a laugh is happening every 20 seconds. That's that rolling hurt somebody. David Letterman is great at this, is what Dale is saying. That is very true. John Anthony Sterlini is saying sex and comedy are much the same. 10 cent release. Kids might be watching. I can't say anything, but yes. Magic is a very similar structure, by the way. You build up, right? You say, I want you to select a card, and we're going to lose the card. There's no way I can know where that card is. The revelation is, that's tension, right? Will he find it? The revelation is he found the card, even though that's impossible. And then the deck is blank also, let's say. That would be an additional revelation that doesn't require a new trick or a new setup. So you could actually look at astonishment per minute or moments of astonishment per minute. And that would be another rubric to analyze your act with. So we have, what is a joke? Very similar to magic. And here's a joke in action.
I'm a New Yorker. New York.
This is weird that I'm on screen at the same time with myself.
I actually got into an argument on the subway, and the guy quoted the Bible. That is not fair. Like, you get a quote from your favorite book. I feel the quote from my favorite book, right? He was like, men do not live on bread alone. Matthew 4:4. It's like everybody's a little bit magic. Harry Potter, chapter 7. Not a fair fight, right? One of those books is a classic about.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That was the joke, everybody. By the way, huge shout out to Ryan in Toronto, who is doing, this is lecture 2 of 3 just today. This man is working harder than anyone out there in the magic community. So a huge shout out to him. I was just trying to make a joke earlier, by the way, about us being on screen at the same time, but it is fun to do that. So back to the slides. Here we go. That's a joke that I did on television and then was eliminated 1 round later. Let's see if I've just crashed my computer, which is totally possible. I see what I did. I cut off the joke in the middle.
And the other is the Bible. You know what I'm saying?
There we go. See? Jokes are so much funnier when you interrupt yourself and kill the punchline. I was eliminated, and those are then. All right. Let's look at that joke. Here's the joke. Put it up on the screen. And let's look at its component parts. So I talk about being on the subway. The guy quoted the Bible at me. And that would be the setup. And then there's the punchline. And there are 2 tags. Tag 1, tag 2. So if this joke took about 60 seconds to perform, I'm getting my 3 laughs per minute. That's the rate that I'm trying to be at a minimum. So that's good. And you can see how there's a conflict being set up. And that is creating a tension, me versus this guy. What am I going to say to him? How am I going to win? How am I going to respond to him? And then the release of that, the surprise of the punchline and the additional tags, is creating those release moments that are hopefully the laughter. Renee is applauding. I appreciate that. And we have Kreischer, so good. I think he's talking about Bert Kreischer, who has a new special on Netflix. There's a good example from back a while ago about talking about revealing yourself. He literally takes his shirt off before he performs. So he's really showing himself. 3 core concepts of comedy. I have about 7 to 10 minutes before we get to the questions because I want to leave some time for that. So we will blast through this, but so sit tight. Strap yourself in, boys and girls. 3 core concepts of comedy: contrast, compression, and clarity. What the hell are these? Well, they're the questions you ask yourself to make a joke funnier. So let's say you're stuck in a quarantine. Let's just say that. Bruce Gold saying, bravo. Oh, thank you. I hope that is in response to the clip, or maybe not. Maybe it's a bravo to these 3 core concepts, which I've managed to boil down to things that start with the same letter. So that's pretty exciting. Also the same letter as comedy, so that's good. These are the 3 things that if you're looking at your jokes, perhaps you're in quarantine, looking at your humor, and you're trying to figure out how can I make these funnier? Maybe this joke is not as funny as you wish it could be, but you want it to be funnier. So you're going to look at the contrast of it, the compression of it, and the clarity of it, and you're going to use that to determine where the joke is broken. Essentially, if a joke is a car and you need to fix it, you need to know about how cars work. What are the things? What lets a car go? The wheels, the engine. I know nothing about cars. This was a bad analogy. But you understand what I'm saying. The point is, knowing how a joke breaks allows you to fix it. So these are all the places. So the contrast. There are 2 forces in conflict in every joke. Find them and then enhance the contrast. Every joke has an A and a B. They're fighting each other, right? The man in the subway versus me. Religion versus secularism, right? Those are all conflicts that are happening in this joke. There's also a contrast of expectations, is what magicians use. That's surprise, right? What you expect happens. What you expect to happen and what does actually happen, those can contrast. That's a contrast of expectations. So nope, that's the wrong, sorry. Nope, that's still the wrong one. If you can just get to the next. Nope. There you go. See, We were worried about, there was just a bunch of penises, and then we ended up on a huge dick. Oh my God, I don't mean to be mean to him. He's a very nice guy. He's been nothing but nice to me. Why am I doing this? So contrast with expectations is surprise. And the distance between forces. I'm trying to blast through this so we can get to the questions, but just suffice it to say that the conflict between A and B, which is driving the contrast of a joke, those forces need to be close enough that it makes sense, but not so far away that the thing breaks down. So you don't want to be so close that it's a waste, but you want to be far enough that it makes sense, but not so far that it stops making sense. Those are sort of the three distances, right? If you're thinking about a murder mystery, we're talking about the ideal joking distance. If you're thinking about a murder mystery, you don't want it to be too obvious because that's frustrating. You don't want it to be too difficult because that's frustrating. You want it to be just right. So it's not obvious going forwards in time, but seems obvious in hindsight. That's the best joke, is like a murder mystery. Paul Kozak saying LOL, which means a lot. He's a fantastic comedy magician as well. This is another clip. If you want to see it, go online. We're going to go through that. A is like B. Well, this is going to be the interactive part of this lecture. One of the parts, because there's a Q&A at the end. I'm going to put up a joke topic. I'm going to give you about 20 seconds. I will do a dance during those 20 seconds. And we'll look at the comments. And you guys should be submitting your punchlines to the following prompt, which is card tricks are like farts. So I need you to submit answers to the prompt. Card tricks are like farts. If you guys want to type those in right now, I'll give you one example to start you off. There's the song. Start those punchlines. Card tricks are like farts.
A joke about card tricks and farts. Write a joke about card tricks and farts. Write a joke about card tricks and farts. Why are you listening to this song instead of writing about the card tricks and the farts? Write a joke, time's almost up. Yes, it is.
All right, I wrote that song, guys. So let's see what we have. Card tricks are like farts. We have Simone saying they all stink. That's pretty good. Rick saying they both stink. And Michael saying everybody has them and they all stink. That's pretty good. Dane says most of them are short but still seem long. That's pretty good. Mike Bent, who we name dropped earlier before. I hope you got to see that. You're one of my favorite people. Only children actually enjoy them. That really ties well into our don't touch kids, everybody. Don't touch kids. Matt Phillips saying your family doesn't want to experience either one. That's pretty great. Yes, that's a good one. We have Chris right above him saying there's a direct correlation between the sound of the card springs and how much the trick smells. All right, we're going a little bit out of there, but I like what you're doing there. Rob Pierce towards the bottom saying some go right by people unnoticed. Paul Kozak saying sometimes there's a little shit left behind. That is true. Clean up the stage. Should never leave it. If there's performers after you, you should probably figure out a way to make sure that it's not insane. Ron Porter said magicians just have to let them out. That's pretty great. So here are some of the other ones, because I've done this lecture before. We got, it's going to happen, I promise. Oh, I have to click back on this. That's what's happening. One is fine, but by 2 or 3, you've ruined the party. They come and go. Most time the wife ignores them. That's pretty great, T-Rav Nero. You can't tell yours stink. The longer they last, the more uncomfortable everybody gets. John Swomley saying good ones are deadly. Adam Parisi saying cartridges are like farts. Everyone loves their own. That's true. One mistake and you'll have a horrible mess on your hands. Well, the reason we do this exercise and the reason I actually love doing that, besides for it being really fun, Lance Burden, they've both been in Max fans. That is probably the line of the night. Thank you, Lance. That is fantastic. Sometimes, for some people, the idea of sitting down and writing a joke is scary. There are some magicians, may I say comedy magicians, who have never actually sat down to write a joke. Every one of you who submitted a comment, you just wrote a joke. You can do it. You created your own joke. Obviously, there are some things that are similar, but that is what joke writing is. It's a very fun process. It's very simple in the sense that you just sit down, you come up with jokes, and if you can do that, you can create your own unique comedy act that is art, that is yours, that reflects who you are as a person. So that is contrast. So one of the fun things about contrast, by the way, is that you can use that to create a series of jokes. So there were Venn diagrams earlier. So we'll show one side here, and we're going to show you what they have in common. So here we go. The method to hippity hop rabbits and yourself. What do they have in common? Things you don't want to expose at a kid show. Don't touch kids. Card tricks with more than 2 phases. America's response to COVID-19. Way too slow, leading to far more pain than necessary. Don't get mad at me. That was political, but these are just jokes. Not dying in large numbers from the coronavirus. What does it have in common with magic competitions? South Koreans are just better at it. That's just fact, everybody. That's just fact. Linking rings and parasols. What do they have in common with Anne Frank? I did promise an Anne Frank joke. If you've been tuning in from the beginning, here's your moment. What do linking rings have to do with Anne Frank? Better off left in the attic. These are jokes. Chris Angel. What does he have to do with talent? What do they share in common? Oh, God, no. He's a very nice man, and there's no reason to be beating up on him like that. That is uncalled for. Uncalled for, I say, PowerPoint. Uncalled for. Compression. Another C is putting the most amount of stuff in the smallest amount of space, editing things down. This lecture is supposed to fit in an hour, and we're getting close. So I'm doing the compression in real time. So you keep cutting until it breaks and then go back one step. So I keep trying to remove words from jokes to see if they still get a big laugh. And then at a certain point, they stop getting laughs. I go back one step. That is probably as short as that joke can be, maximizing laughs per minute. We can talk about editing. I'll put that on the screen. You can go back and read it. But how does that apply to your magic? Cut down the unnecessary moves and gestures. Figure out what the magic is. Remove everything else that doesn't directly create astonishment, these magic moments, or laughter if you're a comedy magician.
I was vegan for a while. You guys know vegan, right? When you give up meat and dairy and friendship. Those are the three things.
That's three things. Rule of three. What is the rule of three? That people throw that at you all the time. They say, why is 3 the magic comedy number? I'll tell you. Because it's combining compression and contrast. 3 is the smallest number required, that's compression, to create a pattern and then to break that pattern. That would be contrast. Ken Dum says, brevity is the soul of comedy. There is a quote. It is hard to figure out who it should be attributed to, whether that is Shakespeare or Mark Twain or somebody in between. Brevity is the soul of wit is a quote as well, but brevity is the soul of comedy. Mitch Hedberg, also one of the souls of comedy. Great, short, concise jokes. He's a very good person to look at for the compression part. Think about this. If I showed you David Blaine, David Copperfield, you don't know what I'm doing. The Copperfield reveal doesn't mean anything. Am I showing you Davids? Am I showing you magicians? Am I showing you Jews? These are all things they have in common. There's no pattern. I haven't broken it. However, what if I do David Blaine, David Copperfield? Now I've broken the pattern. God, he's a very nice man. Every time I meet him, he always takes time to say hello. There's no reason to be mean to him. So there is the rule of 3. Clarity. Being as clear as you can. Is your idea getting across exactly as you intended? That's clarity, by the way, and this is perhaps ironic or not a coincidence, but this is the shortest one because I think I can be pretty clear here. Be clear. If your idea is muddled, it won't get communicated, and you're dead in the water. So be as clear as possible. Is your joke not funny? Because people don't understand what you're trying to say. Joe Lantier is saying, are puns considered comedy? Yes, maybe. I think there are different levels of humor. I think culturally they also change. As far as I know, in Japan, puns are considered one of the highest levels of comedy. In America, not so much. But for me, I want there to be an explosion in the brain. I want to literally keel you over with laughter. At least culturally in America, you don't see that as much. You don't see puns getting that hard hit. When I worked for a TV show and I worked for the one of the executive producers of David Letterman, and his advice was invaluable. And he said, you always go for the hard joke. There are soft jokes and there are hard jokes. And it's hard to explain the difference, but when you hear a hard joke, it just punches through, it kills you over in laughter. It just hits, it hurts, it's physical. It's an involuntary response. Boom. Sterling's gonna make a sex joke about it, but it's okay. Hard jokes are more fun than soft jokes. Puns tend to be soft jokes. All right, so that is clarity. Can we get to the next slide? I believe I can, using my remote. Simplifying the process is clarity and compression. Removing repetitious phrases is clarity and contrast. If I'm going too fast, the beautiful thing is this is on video. You can rewind. Here we go. Contrast, compression, and clarity. If you want to know more about comedy, by the way, buy Mike Bent's book. He has a great book. I believe it's called The Everything Guide to Comedy. And if that's incorrect, to comedy writing, if that's incorrect, Mike, please correct me. But that is a fantastic resource where he does address many of these core concepts. and a lot more. So that's a great resource for yourself as well. Truth and Comedy by Del Close, another great book. If you're interested in reading up more on comedy, that is the comedy module. And this next part of my lecture is usually where I talk about how you can get on stage or perform for large crowds in order to get better at comedy. However, if you perform in front of large crowds, you are probably committing a crime, depending where you live, or putting yourself in danger. So this is maybe not, this is a weird time to be talking about this, but I will briefly go over what you should do when this quarantine is over, how you get funnier and better performing. And then I will tell you in a brand new slide just for this lecture, what you should do while you're in your quarantine to also put these things into practice. All right, what can we learn from stand-up comedians? Drugs are bad, except when they're good, but they're bad. Kids, they're bad. See me after the show. But seriously, don't do them. Why is this joke still going? Penis. Great. All right, a lot of things going there. Compression, perhaps not. No, the key is to be as concise as possible. Make sure each thing is turning, contrast, etc. The secret algorithm. Here's the algorithm on the board. You perform the joke. You take in the data. Your audience will tell you if a joke works. Listen to them, please. Then you adjust that joke. You change it based on that data. You re-perform the joke again. It goes over and over again. There are ways to screw that up. There's not enough stage time. There's not enough experimenting. That's probably the most important thing that we're going to talk about in these red circles. Breaking stuff. Every time you go on stage, change something. How can you make your act better if you do it exactly the same? You can get more polished at your act. If you want real improvements, you want to find out those really exciting things that there are moments where I try something new on stage and it clicks and it works and it's what I live for. Have those moments. They're very exciting. Break stuff. Go on stage with something new. You can sandwich it with stuff that's old so you have a backup and a fallback, but get on there, try new things. Record your sets. Don't imagine laughs. See if the laughs are really there. Be honest with yourself. And be willing to get rid of jokes even that you might love or magic tricks that you love if they're not getting the response that you believe they deserve. So that's the secret algorithm. You write what you want. That's originality, right? You don't bring anything on stage that's not unique to you or something that you really feel strongly about. That's the artistic component. And you keep what they want. That is the funny part, the comedy part. We have Mike Ben saying, thanks. Yes, that's it. Okay, good. I'm glad I got that book correct. Cody Clark saying, it's correct. I've got it at home. I'm glad. There you go. One sale. Paula Pert said, a truckload of great information. Thanks for unloading your ideas on Jam Live. That is absolutely my pleasure, Paula. Adrian is saying, in what order do you decide what to change? The order is based on the audience feedback. So I'll change a lot of things if the audience isn't responding to a lot of things. But I use the audience, that they're the instrument. As a comedian or a comedy magician, the instrument is the audience itself. That's what I'm trying to play. I'm trying to get noise out of the audience. So here are some actual advantages to being a magician during the corona pandemic. Some actual advantages. Use this time to evaluate your performance, right? What is yours? If you think about your show, what did you create? What did you write? What are you responsible for? Cut everything else out and figure out what you can replace the things you just cut with that is unique to you. What a fantastic time. What a great way to take advantage of this time to do this exercise and put the art back into your magic. Create effects, build props, write jokes. That's the comedy part. You're not gonna be able to try the jokes in front of a large audience. You can call your friends, create a Zoom chat and test stuff. Create a stockpile. Think about like stockpiling stuff that when the quarantine is over, you're gonna go on stage with a notebook full of jokes. Sometimes I get to a comedy club and I realize I've only written 2 or 3 jokes I really wanna try that night. And it's not as fun as when I have like a notebook full of things to try. I'm so excited about that. So creatively stockpile. Create a stockpile of creative things to try once this quarantine is over. Build a brain trust. Set up regular video chats with your inner circle. Work on the ideas. Talk to your friends. They have nothing to do right now. Use them. Guess what? You know that really talented friend that's always too busy to help you because they're doing their own stuff? Well, she's not busy right now, so pick her brain. Do the obvious. Read those books, practice those slides you've always been meaning to. You got no excuse now. In 2 months or whenever, 3 months, 17 years from now when this is over, people are going to say, and you can't say, oh, I wish I had more time to read. You had the time. This is the time. Do it. Reflect. Groups like the IBM came together to support each other. I have been so thrilled and so, it's been so amazing to see the International Brotherhood of Magicians really come together as a brotherhood, a sisterhood, as a togetherhood. It is a wonderful thing. What Alex is doing is incredible. What Ryan has been doing is incredible. What all you guys are doing by coming together and providing these comments to help everybody. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All these nice comments. That's really nice. But what it's really remarkable to see what everybody's doing in this time of crisis. People really reveal themselves in times of great stress. And I think hold on to that. Look at how magicians, how your brothers and sisters are supporting each other, how cool the IBM is right now. IBM, it does. So reflect and let that be something that you remember in this experience and past this experience. So in review, our final present, I will double check with Orion. I know there's another lecture coming up at 10 p.m. Central Time, which is 11 p.m. Eastern Time. There you go. So we got to get off this very, very, very soon. But please, once this ends, stick around for his talk as well. I did promise you the best magic review I've ever read. And after that, we'll do like 2 questions. We'll be done in hopefully within the next 5 minutes. So here we go. Compression, right? In review, but first a note about reviewing. I can do this. This is the review in MUM, the fantastic magazine. Boris Wilde Mark Deck Project. This is a real review. He wrote, when his deck was first released back in 2005, I had a great deal of difficulty reading it efficiently. That's a bad thing. If you're doing a marked deck, you got to be able to read the markings. That's very, very important. Since that time, however, I have had cataract surgery and new toric lenses have severely lessened my astigmatism, and now I find the cards much easier to read. Yeah, he couldn't read the cards, and then I'm not a big card trick guy. That is my favorite magic review of all time. A blind guy who doesn't like card tricks, reviewing a marked deck of cards. The best part about that is I did this lecture at Magic Live, and Payne was in the audience. We met. He is a goddamn sweetheart. He's on the cover of Genie Magic Magazine, Genie Magazine right now. But this is by far my favorite magic review I've ever read. So in review, you are all terrible, but you will get better if your goal is to create art. Plus, you're here with us, so you're already on your way. The fact that you're listening to this and not catching up on Tiger King is amazing. There you go. So break stuff, make art, express ideas, be original. Don't touch kids. Just don't do it. Don't touch the kids. You shouldn't do it. You are all not that terrible, especially if you follow this lecture, and you'll probably survive the coronavirus too. So that is my final slide. Shameless plug, social medias. You can also tune in every Monday and Wednesday for Who Books Out with Harrison Greenbaum, presented by the International Brotherhood of Magicians. Our guest on Monday is Kaylin and Ginger. There you go. Kaylin and Ginger is tomorrow, and Shin Lim is on Wednesday. That is all insane. Keith saying the magic community has been amazing during this time. I am proud to be a part of it. Thank you for sharing. My pleasure. Oscar saying yas. And I agree. Debbie giving me a round of applause. I appreciate that. Please join the IBM. That's really important. If you're not in the IBM already, I don't know why you're not. Join it. We need your support now more than ever. Please like our page on Facebook. That's really important. If there's 1 or 2 more questions, I think we can get 1 or 2 more in. I will take 2 more or 3 more minutes at the most for that. And please watch, by the way, Scam Online every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is my live virtual magic show coming to you from New York City. So Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Who books that? Thursday, 8 p.m. Scam Online. 2 more questions before this is over. We have Ken Dumb saying to use a technique for remembering everything that happens in the show, all the detail to wrap your show. He's referencing my the end of my act. I do a rant in which I summarize in the full show 80 to 90 minutes of audience interaction and comedy. There is no technique other than the fact that as I'm doing the show, I'm sort of putting mental pins. I literally kind of talk to myself and go, remember that, remember that. And I'm visually looking at the audience so that I have a physical map of where they are. And then as I'm gearing up to do that last trick, I've rehearsed it so much that there are parts where I can sort of use some of my brain power to start refreshing in my memory what's happening. So there are moments in the show where I'm actually constructing that rant, reminding myself, and doing that periodically. So there's a lot of work happening throughout the entire 90 minutes to make sure I'm able to do that rant at the end. So it's just something that I practiced for a really, really long time. Somebody said, do you think it's harder to get work at clubs as a comedy magician than a comedian? Yes, and rightfully so. In the sense that a lot of comedy magicians are doing what we talked about at the beginning. They're not creating art, they're buying tricks. Comedians can't go to a comedy store and buy jokes. They have to come up with it on themselves. Sorry, I was distracted by comments for a moment. And I think there's a reason that's the reason that comedians and people like Paul Kozak and Mac and Mike Ben can all also speak to the comedy club thing. But there's a reason comedians don't like magicians sometimes. It's because of that. And there are exceptions, obviously. But I think that's why it is harder. if you're going to be in a comedy club, play by comedy club rules. Make sure every joke that you do is a joke that you've written, because all the comedians are doing that too. So you can play in a comedy club. I love being in a comedy club. I generally do straight comedy when I'm headlining at a actual comedy club. When I'm at theaters, it's more of the comedy and magic show. Lincoln saying that makes sense. You answered his question. Somebody said, how do you keep Harrison Greenbaum in suspense? I imagine you're not going to respond to that. Ken Dumb saying, Sterlini, you're the guy that did that trick twice. Gary is saying, thanks. Somebody saying you should record yourself, or better, record your audience. That is a great piece of advice. Well, I think we have done it. We have answered all the questions. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you guys. I appreciate you guys for watching this, for following me on the social media, and supporting my journey as well. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to me through my website, harrisongreenbaum.com. There's a form that comes straight to my email. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I guess we can bring Alex back on if he's still around, if he wants to wrap this bad boy up. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And thank you to IBM for being so amazing throughout this entire thing.